Welcome to On Texas Football. It's time for the Tuesday night live stream brought to you by the folks at Energy Texas. We appreciate them each and every Tuesday night. I'm Bobby Burton alongside Rod Babers and CJ Vogel. We got quite a crew in here tonight. We're going to talk a little Longhorn football. T-minus 6 days and counting. The Longhorns finished up their first practice back from Christmas this afternoon, headed to New Orleans tomorrow. Press conferences begin on Thursday. Texas is going to be practicing in the afternoons on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before the game on Monday. It is a week long of festivities. We're going to have press conferences from not only Steve Sarkisian, Pete Kwiatkowski, Kyle Flood, but also a number of players like Xavier Worthy, Jalen Ford, Quinn Ewers, etc. It is a week full of fun for the Texas Longhorns headed to the All-State Sugar Bowl to play in the college football playoff. Like I said, I'm Bobby Burton, joined by CJ Vogel and Rod Babers. Rod, I'm going to go to you. How was your baby's first Christmas? Let's talk about really the important thing. How was your baby's first Christmas, my man?
It was great. It was fantastic. First time that my mom and dad and my brother and his wife and all of my family on that side got a chance to meet the baby. So it was really, really fun. It was great. We hung out for probably 3 days, and yeah, they all got a chance to meet the baby. And it was, like I said, it was really, really fun. And I'll say this about my H-Town family: we fried the turkey. All right, so the food was good. We had that Cajun stuffing. All right, so Mama represented with the Cajun stuffing. All my people swamp people. So even my uncle drove down from Louisiana. So we did it big, man. So it was great. It's fantastic.
CJ, what about you? What was your favorite present? Was it that hat that you're wearing right now, or what else you get?
Hey, this hat's been good. I don't know if I've taken it off since I received it. So,
that is clean hat.
I've seen the chat. I've got to get some more Longhorn gear. At least this one's got the Longhorn on it. So I'm excited for it. And, but man, no, it's been fun being up in Allen for the weekend. And I mean, my dad hasn't left the big green egg out in the backyard. So we've been eating good up here.
Good stuff. All right, guys. Hey, we're going to talk a little Longhorn football, a little Longhorn recruiting, everything Longhorn, a little portal action. Young man out of Purdue went into the portal today, has 10 sacks in his career. He's originally from Bryan, Texas. Nick Carraway he's now taken the name of his father, last name Scourton. He has 10 sacks on the year. He just has announced his intention to go into the portal today. 15 tackles for loss as a sophomore at Purdue this year. Announces he's in the portal. I've talked to some folks. Texas was not aware he was going in the portal beforehand, which typically means he's probably already talking to somebody else. However, this is the kind of guy, a defensive end, 6'4", 280 pounds, that might just be able to play a couple of different positions for Texas that might spark the Longhorns' interest. We'll see exactly where this goes. Right now, it is a little bit of a quiet period, so we got to wait and see how that's going on. CJ, talk a little bit about recruiting and what's left on the board right now for the Longhorns in the class of 2024. Clearly, they just wiped the floor with people at the end of this last session last week. But what's left in the hopper right now?
No, Bobby, I'm sure you and I, among everybody else that had covered the Longhorns, are ready for this 2024 cycle to fully move on, because what a month it has been for the Texas staff. 9 total commitments, 3 out of the portal. Obviously, a few flips in the 2024 class, and then the 2025 class also get excited and got the ball rolling there as well. But where do things go as we head into the late period for the 2024 class? The answer is on the defensive line. Texas, filled a need on the receiver spot late, and I'm talking real late into that early signing period with Aaron Butler signing and committing all in the same evening. But to the defensive line, it's between Alex Butler and Dominic McKinley, really to see where Texas heads for that final defensive line spot. A lot to be seen. Obviously, Alex Foster made it to campus the final week prior to the early signing day. Dominic McKinley is still committed to Texas A&M at the moment. Obviously, Texas has been in communication with both and will remain in communication with both following the signing and I guess reaffirmation of commitment from D'Alen Evans on signing day as well. So a lot going on, but finally we were able to kind of trim the fat here and get to truly the final pieces of that 2024 class. And again, Alex Foster, Dominic McKinley, one defensive line spot, at least in my eyes, as far as what Texas will do there. We'll see as the February month starts closing in.
Yeah, and then you also have Terry Bussey hanging out there. But Texas, it's been a weird recruitment from the outset. Texas kind of liked him more as a DB, maybe a wide receiver. Then he goes out and just balls out crazy as a senior after coming back from injury. Has a wonderful state championship game. Texas has re-entered the picture somewhat, but we still believe that's LSU A&M at this point as well. Other recruiting news, KJ Lacey, young man out of Saraland in Alabama, down in the Mobile area, has been committed to Texas, was actually the first commitment for the class of 2025 as a quarterback, but he's been to the Auburn campus a couple times recently, and he's had one teammate already switch from Alabama to Auburn. He's likely to have another teammate switch from Alabama to Auburn, and right now we hear there's a lot of pressure for KJ Lacey to end up going to Auburn as well. That would be a switch from Texas, which would be a knock. And it brings us to this question from E. Kim. Who's the 2025 QB take if Lacey goes to Auburn? CJ, you and I discussed this morning. There's no clear choice right now if that's the case, right?
No, there really isn't. And, that's one of those things. Normally the state of Texas produces a ton of D1 high-caliber quarterbacks on a year-to-year basis. I would say this year doesn't really fit the bill. There are some guys in the class that are surely talented, and a lot of these guys have already committed to a school. The Big 12 in-state schools have gotten on these guys pretty early. When you're talking about Adam Schobel, Ty Hawkins, Lloyd James, this is not necessarily a class where if you're desperately looking for a quarterback, you can just rely on the state of Texas to produce someone for you. You're going to have to go out of state and find a guy, and like we've seen with KJ Lacey, fight off the in-state guys in his backyard. So we'll see, because right now there's no clear option, especially in the state of Texas. Quarterback, like I said, not a strong suit for the class. Texas will have to go elsewhere. You mentioned Bryce Underwood earlier today, as well as McElroy as well. So two guys Texas could potentially make a move for later on in the cycle. But right now, I think all sights are set on keeping Lacey in the class.
Can I ask something else too? How many quarterbacks has Sark actually offered? Is it 5 or 6? How many?
Well, in the class of 2020,
just total since he's been here in Texas.
Oh, it's been upwards of 10.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he had some guys.
And are they all? How many? Because it seems like he's split pretty much from guys from Texas and guys outside of Texas. Are we right? It's a kind of an even. I mean, Arch is outside. KJ, Malik. Like, how many guys are?
It feels like a more national approach.
They passed on Connor Wegman.
Okay.
They passed on Connor Wegman for Malik Murphy, really.
Okay.
The A&M started. I'm not saying that was the right move, but you're right about that, Rod.
So he doesn't necessarily depend on the state, as that much. He goes outside the state a lot for finding his quarterbacks. Okay. He's got a reputation that he can do that with.
I think what he does, Rod, is I think CJ's right. You can find Trey a great prospect, in my opinion, a tremendous prospect like Trey Owens inside the state. That's a developmental prospect.
Yeah.
The Arch Mannings to some points, the Quinn Ewers are a little bit different, right?
Yes.
They're those 1-1 possibilities.
Agreed.
Round 1, pick 1 type of guys.
Yes.
Whereas Trey Owens is not. KJ Lacey may be more in that. I mean, I think he's number 5 overall in the country rated right now. And he's those are traits guys. They like all the traits, but you're talking about the Quinn Ewers and Arch are different in terms of their overall evaluations. They're 1-1s, right?
Yes.
That's you get the term. Hey, Rod, I want to stick with you, and this is something we're going to answer questions today. I got a little news on practice today. I'll deliver here in a little bit, but we're gonna take questions and talk a little ball here. Have some fun tonight with Rod and CJ and myself. Rod, this one's for you from William Jones. How nice is it that we don't ever have to worry about losing a play caller because the HC, the head coach, is the play caller. Let me ask you this, Rod. Consistency at play calling on both sides of the ball. Kwiatkowski didn't go and lobby for the Nevada job, right? I mean, he would have probably been a better fit. I mean, he's got more skins on the wall than Jeff Choate, but he's not looking to. How important is that consistency, in your opinion, of having guys on both sides of the ball that you don't have to really worry about heading somewhere else?
It's a great point. It really is, because inevitably that's what happens. I always say this about like great TV shows. It happens. If you wonder why a great TV show for the first like 2 or 3 seasons, it's awesome. And then it starts to deteriorate. And it's like, man, the plot seems to be, got some plot holes here, man. The writing's not the same. It's usually because the writers because it's a hit show, they get snatched up by other projects, get paid more money, or they get a chance to pursue their own interests, and they just take that, and then they got to go hire some other people, and they're not as good, and that's how it goes out. The Philadelphia Eagles are that TV show right now, right? Both of their coordinators get snatched up, taken elsewhere. This is why Bill Belichick and his coaching tree sucks, is because Bill Belichick famously never shared secrets. He's not a coach that's going to communicate even with the media, right? He doesn't communicate a lot of things. He operates in a very clandestine, confidential, secretive fashion. Even his own coaches don't know why they benched Malcolm Butler before the Super Bowl. They don't know. Tom Brady don't know. Nobody knows. Bill Belichick knows. He operates like that, like the CIA and the FBI. The coaches don't even know actually why they're carrying out the operation and why they're doing what they're doing. He's just letting people know that, because his fear always was people will steal my secrets. And through taking my coaches, they'll take my secrets. I'll never even give it to my damn coaches. I'll keep it all to myself. I'll give them just the necessary information they need to carry it out. That's why his coaching tree is terrible. But guys like Bill Walsh, guys like Bill Parcells, guys like even Andy Reid, I mean, their coaching trees are awesome because those guys share a lot of information. They're not as paranoid as Bill Belichick. My point being, going back to William Jones, you're right. I mean, that's usually the start of the deterioration, the decay of a lot of great organizations, a lot of great teams, a lot of great TV shows. People start to siphon that talent. Like, hey, man, I want to do what they're doing. How do you do it? Well, go get somebody that's high up in the organization and in that program that knows how it works, or at least you think they know how it works. They may not know, Bill Belichick, but you think they know, so you keep hiring these guys, and you're like, man, these guys don't know a damn thing. Yeah, they don't know because Bill Belichick doesn't share it, but there are certain coaches that do. So my point being, yes, I totally agree with you, and that is part of the continuity and the consistency for Sark. And by the way, he has also promoted that. There are a lot of people calling for changes within the coaching structure. Remember, there was some of y'all that wanted a play caller, an offensive coordinator. Hey, if y'all bringing a play caller for Sark so he can be a head coach, because we like him, but we don't like him doing both. There are also some that wanted PK fired after the first year. Oh, man, this guy's terrible. He sucks. Doesn't know what the hell he's doing. All right, so think about that. Now, I will say, I did say, in terms of the wide receiving coach thing, that's had a lot of turnover, but that's his fault and not his fault. That's different. That's the only position really that he's kind of been, struggling with to figure out coaching wise. Every other position he's killed it with. He's been great at coaching hires and also coaching development, because this guy will share information. That's why Brendan Marion used this as a pitch stop. He's like, no, I want to go hang out with Sark. This guy's a fast riser. All right, in the coaching ranks. He wanted to hang out with Sark for a year because he knew what that would mean, not only for his coaching acumen, but for his coaching resume. So Sark is now gaining that kind of notoriety in the coaching community too. Now, if he wins the national title, he's a made man. You're a made man. Then all the young bright coaches come to you. You ain't even got to ask. It's like walking into the club, when all the women know that you got a lot of money and you're a famous man. They all know, like, I just got drafted. Oh, they know. Oh, that's the man. They may follow you around the club with the champagne that's sparkling, and they're like, man, this guy must be somebody. CJ, know, hey, he must be somebody. Who the hell is that guy? All the women just flock to the champagne. They flock to the sparkling stuff and just keep going. You ain't gotta do nothing. They come over to you. So that's what Sark can do if he wins the national title, baby. A made man, champagne, baby. You know what I'm talking about? All the time. Yeah.
I've got to say this. So I've never been that man. I just want y'all to know that I've never been there before in my life. So, all right, I agree with you that the consistency helps especially, the one thing that people don't get and don't really understand, Rod, think about it. High school programs that have consistency on a coaching level, they can bring them up in their program all the way through. College football is a step up from that. Don't get me wrong, but it's still a lot of that. They're not pros yet, right? Mm-hmm. They're not fully developed, already done. These guys are still baking. They're still getting cooked in the oven, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that consistency helps them. I really do believe that. Before we get all right, I got some more questions to take tonight. Going to get to all of those if at all possible tonight. Want to say thank you to our sponsor, Energy Texas. Energy Texas is electricity for Texans by Texans. It's Texas electricity done right. Give them a call at 855-461-1129 or visit them at www.energytexas.com. They have a flex program going on right now. You can change your energy plan each and every month at no additional cost. Change it to whatever you need it to be that particular month. Again, www.energytexas.com. Texas electricity done right. We appreciate them. Here's Dustin Werner. Got my tickets yesterday. See y'all there, fellas. We'll be there. At least I will be. CJ and I are going to be at Manning's the day of. Rod's going to be piped in hot. We're gonna be bringing some former players. We got a bunch of guests lined up for Monday at Manning's. Also, you could be there as well. There's a group that's supporting the Texas One Fund that is putting this on. It's a Sugar Bowl party. Go to TexasSugarBowl.party. TexasSugarBowl.party. All the tickets are sold out except for the general admission. It's going to be, I think, 1,500 to 2,000 Longhorns there at least on Monday. It will be the place to be if you're a Longhorn fan. Wow. Hey, this is a question that I think is good. Lacey has to do what's best for Lacey. If he flips from Texas, wish him well, could open the door for Julian Lewis to reconsider Texas. As long as Sark is the HC, I know he'll find a good QB. So, CJ, I know you know Julian Lewis a little bit. Rod, this is the 1-1 for the class of 2026.
Okay.
So
he's out of the new heir disciple.
Yeah. He's one of those that is legit big time. He's been anointed. They sprinkled the oil on him, and he's that guy. It does kind of open up a year where another big time quarterback could come in because that puts 2 years between him and Arch Manning. CJ, what do you think? Sark might just say, let's go for another guy that we like that has traits and not necessarily go for the George McIntyre or the Bryce Underwood out of Michigan. This
yeah,
class?
I do. I think it makes sense. And especially if Ewers comes back, because as you mentioned earlier today, Bobby, that then pushes back the timeline of Arch Manning, who, we've floated around that 25 game quota. That scouts like to see, that general managers like to bank on, with kids having 25 collegiate starts under their belt before they make that jump. Arch Manning would then be draft eligible with only 1 year of playing time under his belt. It really doesn't work out that well, regardless of how talented a player is, if they don't have that true college gaming experience. We saw Mitch Trubisky get taken second overall with 12 career starts, and he's getting benched for third string Mason Rudolph right now. It just doesn't always translate to on-field success, especially at the NFL level. So it does make sense if Ewers does return, Manning then push back theoretically another year for his on-field performance. That then pushes back the timeline to go get another 1-1 we've been talking about again another year. Julian Lewis would then come back into the conversation, and it lines up theoretically. Again, it's one of those things. One of my biggest praises of Riley and what he was able to do at Oklahoma, you always knew every other year he was getting that number 1 overall quarterback, because you knew he was going to be able to develop that high school quarterback and put them in a conversation to win the Heisman. That's why he was able to get Spencer Sanders after getting Kyler Murray. That's why he was able to get Caleb Williams after Spencer Sanders. Those number 1 guys wanted to come find a place where they could put up, gaudy numbers and be the man. That's kind of we're seeing right now from Quinn Ewers and obviously Arch Manning. If Sarkisian can follow that up with another 1-1, whether it be Julian Lewis or a Bryce Underwood or someone in that conversation, we're going to be looking in 2027 thinking, all right, go ahead and pencil in that 1-1 for Texas, because that's kind of the trend of what we've seen so far. So I really like this approach. Be careful here, because for whatever reason, if God forbid that 1-1 quarterback goes down, you need to have a kid that can sit there and fill in. Otherwise, you're going to have a Davis Bevel walking in and starting, the Red River Shootout, and you're going to be punked looking at an all-time bad loss. So there has to be a fine balance of figuring guys that you can find to, be developmental guys bought into your program. The idea that they can come in and start a year, start a season, and prove themselves, but also going out and finding the big dogs that, really propel your program to the national championship kind of level by themselves.
Got it. I think you meant Spencer Rattler instead of Spencer Sanders. You're missing your Oklahomas up there, but it's a point well taken. Both number one quarterbacks in their class.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I get what you're saying there, CJ. All right. Hey, let's talk a little bit about today's practice. I'm told the team is extraordinarily healthy. That's one piece of it that needs to be communicated. Texas should be at full health going into the Sugar Bowl against Washington. I do expect it to be an offensive game, guys. Yeah. I mean, I know we've talked about it, but look, I looked at the stats and went over those today earlier. Washington has the 94th rated defense overall. Okay. This is not, I mean, we talk about Texas's secondary having issues and being a weak point. Washington's secondary ranks worse than Texas.
Yeah. No, I'll give you. Can I give you some numbers?
What do you think about that, Rod? I mean,
here's the numbers, Bobby.
The stats can say whatever you want them to say, but what do you think about the scoring on this game? Is it going to be a big score game, you think?
No. Just to add to, now it's a little bit more stats, but I'll add to the stats. But to add to your point, if you look at Washington's pass defense and 10+ yard pass plays allowed, 103rd in the country. Now Texas 97th, so they're not great either. Washington 111th in 20+ yard pass plays allowed. Texas is like 72nd. Washington 123rd in 30+ yard pass plays allowed. Texas is, I believe, 93rd. If you look at 40+ yard pass plays allowed, Washington 125th and Texas 81st. So it's Texas, even though we talk about Texas pass defense issues and complain about them, because it's one of the only things you can complain about with this defense, and Texas fans like to complain. All right. My mom does too. It's okay. All right. But it doesn't mean we don't love you. All right. But Washington's is worse. And they have achieved, in spite of their pass defense, they do make a lot of plays on the football. They do have 16 interceptions on the season, but I don't think they can stop Texas passing offense either. I think their rushing defense actually is pretty good. It's about 40th in the country. They actually are pretty good. That's why I think it lends itself naturally to Sark's tendencies. Sark likes to throw. He wants to throw to open up the game. He wants to throw really to open. He likes to throw in early downs too. And I think against this team, you should throw in early downs. I looked at their first down pass defense, and you go look at it, they're allowing 148 passer rating on first down, 66% completion percentage, highest yards per attempt that Washington defense allows is on first down, 8.2. And you go look at all the touchdowns. They've allowed 10 touchdowns on first down. That's the most out of any of the other standard downs. Only 2 interceptions. They got 16. The down to throw on Washington is first down. Sark likes to throw early in downs anyway. Their pass defense is suspect. Their rush defense is actually really good. You don't want to. Why would you try to? Why would you go your weakness on offense? And I'm saying Texas pass offense is just elite. It really is. I mean, you just have so many weapons. You lost Jonathan Brooks. Now I'm not saying so. I say weaker. The weaker part of your offense is your rushing offense, even though it is really good. That's why you're in the Final Four. But you don't have Jonathan Brooks there. So you have, obviously a complement of running backs, not a workhorse like you did with Jonathan Brooks. But your passing offense, you still have the full complement of guys who are fully healthy. Quinn Ewers playing his best football ever. Their weakest, point of emphasis on defense is their passing defense. I don't know. I think it just kind of fits that Sark's going to open up this game throwing the football. I don't know if they can stop Texas other than Texas getting behind the chains. If they do that, that's a problem because that's when Washington's defense is at their best. They're actually really good on third downs. And if you go look at their most of their interceptions, their simulated pressures, all of their exotic looks come on third down. You don't want to see them on third down. You want to avoid third down against this group, especially third and long.
Texas avoided third down for the most part against Oklahoma State and Texas Tech. Right.
Boom. Yep.
And that was because they had so much success on first and second down. All right. A couple other questions coming out here. This one, a recruiting question from Juan, Super Chat. How did Texas move in the team recruiting rankings go from 6 to 3? I tell you what, this is a great question. Matt, our producer, will you please bring up the On3 team consensus recruiting rankings for us real quick? But CJ and I talked about this morning on Coffee and Football, Juan. It's very interesting just how tight the race from 3 to 5 is. It's all within like 0.1%. It is absolutely crazy. Look at the final rankings. Texas at 92.731, Oregon 7.29 or 0.729, Ohio State 0.708. I mean, just neck to neck to neck. And then look, Miami all the way back there at less than 0.5 point. I mean, it's crazy how close those 3 through 6 teams were. But CJ, Aaron Butler is what really moved them along with the Ty Anthony Smith news on signing day, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, the late pushes there. Texas, following the Aaron Hampton decommitment, which in comparison to some of the schools, especially when you look at what Florida State was prior to, the beginning of signing day, in comparison, it didn't hurt the Longhorns that bad in the recruiting rankings and the overall points accumulated by the class. So, again, great job by the staff to go out and find Aaron Butler at the 11th hour and 59th minute, essentially, getting him into the class. And obviously the number 3 right there heading into the late signing window is, nothing to shy away from. That's a pretty impressive feat right away.
All right. I got some other news for you. This from the Statesman. You guys know how I love to keep up with volleyball. Texas announced volleyball transfers. Reagan Rutherford, and this is according to the Austin American Statesman. I think the Texas volleyball team also put it out. But Reagan Rutherford, a All-American out of Kentucky, outside hitter, is joining Texas. She's originally from Missouri City, down in the Houston area. And then Baylor's setter, who was second team All Big 12 to the Longhorns' own Jenna Ella Swindell, who was first team All Big 12. She's joining the Longhorns as well. Look, Jarrett Elliott and that group continue to do what's right for the Longhorns. All right, talking about coaches and moves and all this other stuff, Ekim asks, do you see any of the current coaching analysts, Paul Chris as an example, leaving if they get a good opportunity elsewhere? That actually happened earlier today in an official announcement. Jeff Choate, the linebacker coach at the University of Texas, last week or week before last got the Nevada job. We all knew that, right? That's been announced. Today it was announced that he's taking Jaquez Smith, a edge rushing coach from the University of Texas. He's not one of the main 9 assistants. He's an off-field assistant, but he had come to the Longhorns last year. He's going to be a full-time assistant at Nevada. I suspect that will happen up and down the roster on both sides. That has happened just about each and every year. Texas has been there and been going out there. All right, this is for you, Rod. Who's starting at safety for the Horns with Derek Williams out? This is from Robbie Tedford.
Wow, that's a good question. Obviously, with Derek Williams out, honestly, because I would have thought about starting Derek Williams because he's your best coverage safety. I know he's a freshman, and they would come after him, but they're coming after those safeties anyway. They're going after him anyway. And you would think you want your best coverage safety out there. I'd probably go with Jerry Thompson just because he's got the reps. All right, he's a senior statesman. I know his coverage is suspect, but all your safeties coverage is a little suspect. So I'd go with him just for the first half. And oh man, that's good. Keaton Crawford or Taft Daddy. Keaton Crawford's got the speed. He can keep up. But man, his eyes are bad.
Yeah.
Taft Daddy. His eyes are bad, man. His eyes are always, he's a great example of you can't teach coverage. He's like a track star. He's fast. He's long. He's rangy. He's got all of the measurables. Like, oh man, you should be able to cover a guy for sure. Nope, not really. You know what I mean? Like because his eyes aren't great, I think, in my opinion. And he makes plays. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I do think one of the weakest parts of his game is just coverage. So I'd probably go with Taft Daddy.
I'm with you.
Jerry Thompson and Taft Daddy. He's assignment sound, at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Assignment sound, plays hard, and he knows where to be seemingly at all times. And the thing on top of that, if he doesn't know where he is, he's going to hustle and get to the ball. We've seen that multiple times in terms of the tipped interceptions that he had, at home against Kansas State. There's also a play against Baylor that I don't think really anybody ever looks back on and kind of tips there or gives credit to, where he's the backside safety and he tracks, the running back out wide across the entire field to stop a touchdown on the 3-yard line. It's one of those things that you don't really see because it's not a highlight, play, but it saves 6, and it's all about the hustle. And so I like Michael Taft. I think he gets kind of a bad rep, and at times, you're a safety, you're a DB, you get beat, it happens. But it's one of those things where if you're schematically sound in a game like this, more things go right than go wrong in my eyes. So I'm rocking with Taft as that second guy along with Thompson.
Yep.
In the first half.
Half. I think when Derek Williams is ready to go, put your best coverage safety in there because you're going to need him. You're going to need him.
I think I would say this. I think that Thompson has actually hit some people hard enough. He doesn't wrap up necessarily really well, but he has hit some people hard enough to maybe cause a turnover. Derek Williams can hit people hard enough to cause turnovers. There's some thought in that as well. All right, Rod, you said your people were swamp people. Well, here's Freshwater Cajun tonight saying, given both Washington and Texas will both be strength on weakness, offense versus defense, obviously. Yeah. What do y'all think will be the deciding factor? I think depth and turnovers. I'm going to go first, okay, because I mentioned this. I'm going to go red zone efficiency.
That's good. I like it.
Red zone efficiency because, look, Washington's stellar. 70% of the time they go into the red zone, they score touchdowns compared to Texas at 49%. Now, Washington's defense gives up more touchdowns in the red zone than Texas by far. So, which one, who's going to turn it on its head a little bit? Rod, your key factor, CJ, your key factor as well.
Bobby, that's so good, man. You stole mine. That was good. Because I was going to go back to that Oklahoma State game, the Big 12 title game, and Texas went 5 of 5 in the red zone. Mike Gundy said Texas looked better, I've on the field real time than they looked on film. I think he was talking about the red zone because we hadn't seen Texas look that good in the red zone all season long. So that's a good one, Bobby. You're right. If Texas is that good in the red zone, hell, they're going to win the national title. But we don't know if there was an aberration. We don't know if it was an outlier because we hadn't seen that team like in the red zone like that all year long. I'll go with what was the deciding factor last season, in my opinion, which was money downs. They converted 56% of money downs last season. They actually weren't. I mean, you held Penix to his lowest yards per attempt in the last 2 years. He was under 60% completion percentage. They only completed one deep ball past 20 plus yards. Going into the game, those are all the things I was freaking out about. And they didn't, that offense looked pedestrian in the passing game. 100%. But they were able to run the ball and they were able to convert. And Texas last year, I think they were a subpar money down defense. This year, they're an elite money down defense. We'll see if it holds against Washington. Money downs, baby.
CJ, what do you got? I like that one, Rod.
Yeah, no, I like depth. I think specifically on the Washington side of things, aside from Braylon Trice, there's not many guys that can get home on a regular basis. The stat numbers are fine. They only have 3 other guys with over 10 pressures on the season. So 4 total guys on the entire Washington defense, all of them on the edges, so none of them come in the interior, can create pressure on the quarterback. On the flip side, Texas has 10 guys with 10-plus pressures this year. Byron Murphy has the most in the middle with 40. Tavondre Sweat has 38. I think, that's one of those things. Pressure can come from any which way. And I think that's a thing. If Braylon Trice, for whatever reason, is not on the field, I don't know if there's a guy that scares me coming off the edge or even on that, defensive front 7 at all. So that's a big part for me. And then real quick, Texas has to start quick. They have to start quick. And I've mentioned in the past, Washington loves scoring points in the first half. They're 7th overall in the country scoring in the first quarter, and they're first scoring in the second quarter. They love scoring quick. Luckily, Texas, it feels like, has found their stride as of the last 2 games that they've played, averaging 31.5 points against Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. That must continue because we know Washington likes to score quick, and they like to score fast in that first half.
Interesting. I would be. I think I wouldn't need a defibrillator if they started fast. I could actually enjoy the Sugar Bowl. That might be a big one.
That's true.
Hey, guys, we look at this and we talk about this game. And I want to go back to the first part of that question, talking about strength on weakness. Do we really think that that's strength on weakness? I mean, it's just the Washington. It's not necessarily the whole Washington offense versus the whole Texas defense. It's specifically the Washington passing offense versus the Texas passing defense, whereas we think that the Texas offense holds kind of an overall advantage over the Washington defense. Y'all see the difference between those two things and what I'm trying to say there?
As long as Texas offense stays ahead of the chains, they will be in an advantageous situation almost every down against Washington's defense. And what I mean by that, if they stay in second and manageable and third and short, or stay out of third. Bill Walsh always said the best third down call you can make as a coach is the one you don't have to make at all. You want to stay out of third down altogether. You want to just be, converting on first and second down. And I think Sark's got to have that mentality, because when they get in third down, that's when they come with exotic looks. They actually are top. They run simulated pressures, which are looks, defensive presentations that look, feel, smell, act like a blitz, but it ain't really a blitz. But it's built and constructed to confuse the pass protection, because the guys that aren't coming, the 3 or 4 defenders that aren't coming, I consider a blitz 5 players or more. So the guys that aren't coming, 3 or 4 guys, they're coming from different levels. Second, third level, first level. Offensive line has no idea who's coming. But 3 or 4 guys are coming. But all they do is set the pass protection as a blitz protection. But it ain't a blitz. And then that throws off the numbers advantage. A blitz protection, they probably figure, oh, man, we'll have the numbers advantage. They don't in the passing game, because you're actually dropping back 7 or 8 guys, depending on how many guys you're sending. So these are things that work. Baylor last year, simulated pressure. They ran a lot of them. Iowa State, first half. Texas had, 4 sacks? They were sacked in the first half. They ran some simulated pressures. Remember Rice for opening game? Simulated pressures. It's something, simulated pressures combined with ghost fronts, amoeba fronts. These are when you have 7, 8 guys lined up across the line of scrimmage all together, some in a 2-point stance, some in a 3-point stance, doesn't matter. But either way, the offensive line doesn't know who's coming. They don't know who's coming and who's dropping back. That's the whole point. And then you can confuse the pass protection. They will do that on third down. They do it really well. You want to avoid that situation altogether. You're standing ahead of the chains. If you stay out of predictable passing situations, they don't necessarily know when to actually deploy these simulated pressures that will confuse your pass protection. By the way, and by the way, CJ's right. They don't have a lot of guys that can create pressure other than Braylon Trice. He did have 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss in the Alamo Bowl last year versus Texas. But they got a guy that they think could be an ace up their sleeve. We talked about this all right, on the live stream before. They got this guy, Zach Durfee. All right. Now, he was a Sioux Falls transfer, double-digit sacks there, double-digit tackles for loss. He wasn't eligible all this season, but he will be eligible in this game. I'm telling you, they're going to throw him out there. Brock Hewitt said it, and even Kalen DeBoer has talked about he's been given their starting offensive lineman fits all season long because he's been working on the scout team. He's a 260-pound defensive end. Just transferred from a low, you know what I mean? Think of him as Trey Moore. They got their Trey Moore for the bowl game. That's what they're thinking. All right, we got a guy that's a natural pass rusher that we can put as a bookend whenever Texas is in predictable passing situations and potentially move one of their other DNs, Braylon Trice, or I forgot the other guy's name. Hufanga, I forget his name. He's a defensive end for them. I'll get it right. But I got it wrong. Tupola. All right.
Tupola.
Yep. Right? Tupola. I'm sorry. I might have got it wrong. I apologize.
I'm not perfect with those names either.
It's Zion Tupola Fetui. All right. So I'll make sure I pay him respect. I'm not trying to disrespect that man at all. We ain't no trash talk over there. Not at all. All right. That's my bad. But he's a 6'4", 260-pound. He's a starting defensive end for them. I could see them moving him inside and putting Zach Durfee on the outside with Braylon Trice on the outside, or moving Braylon Trice on the inside. Zach Durfee on the outside. This guy Fatui, all right, also on the outside, and going with a NASCAR package. Stay out of predictable passing situations, which is why I think Sark's going to pass on early downs. That's where they're most susceptible.
Good stuff, Rod. I talking about Sark there, Rod. This is a perfect segue to question from Great Dane. How much of a factor do you think Sark's experience coaching in the college football playoff previously will be compared to this being Kalen DeBoer's first rodeo? Even though, let's be clear about this, I'm all for small schools and where they grow, they get in that playoff arena, almost like a high school state championship run. DeBoer's been through that before. So he's got some playoff experience. It's not the same or on the same level as the college football playoff, but it still has a sense to it where he knows what's going on when all the chips are on the line.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. That's a great point there by Great Dane, because PK's got, right, college football playoff experience. Obviously, Sark's got that too. Throw Jeff Banks in there. He's your special teams coordinator. He's got college football playoff experience. That's got to have an advantage. How much of an advantage, I don't know, because I will say this about Kalen DeBoer, and I've watched all the games that I could. I need to go try to watch some Sioux Falls stuff, man. Go deep. I will admit I haven't done that. But you know what? I'm gonna try to do that. I'm gonna try to see if I can go down the rabbit hole and find me some of this stuff from way, way back in the day. Because what I do know about big game coaches, man, they know how to break tendency at the right time. And sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's really obvious. You know what I mean? It's all about breaking tendency. I really got big into this watching the Patriots beat the Rams, and that was at 2017, that Super Bowl way back then. And I remember that it was only one touchdown scored in the whole damn Super Bowl. It was a terrible game. Right? Everybody was like, "Oh, it's a terrible game." It was only one touchdown score, right, CJ? And that one touchdown drive by Bill Belichick and the Patriots, it was empty formation out of 22 personnel, which is 2 backs, 2 tight ends. And they ran empty formation, and they ran it like 4 or 5 times on last drive, and the Rams just didn't have an answer. Wade Phillips, old school ball coach, man. And Wade Phillips basically said there was no way to prepare for it. There had only been like 7 times the entire season where a team had run empty formation. I'm talking about all 32 teams. They ran empty formation out of 22 personnel. Even if you had tried to prepare for that, you couldn't. There was no way. It wasn't on film. It wasn't there. And the Patriots, by the way, didn't even practice it. Later, the Patriots said it was something they put in during the walkthrough before the game. It's like, we might need it. Let's throw it out, guys. Let's just line up, figure it out. We might need this. I don't know what else. It was the only touchdown scored. They broke tendency. They had nothing left. They was like, guys, we exhausted every damn play, in the playbook. It doesn't work. They got a great defense, great game plan. What do? You got to break tendency. They did that at the right time. Almost all the big games that have been won, Super Bowls, championships, there's a tendency breaker at the right time in the game where the coach decides, this is it, I'm going to do it. And Sark, by the way, is a great tendency breaker. There's a piece in The Athletic from an anonymous coach that pointed out that he does it all the time. Like he literally breaks tendencies, real time during the season. And I think intentionally, deliberately, so that coaches, won't have any trend or pattern to trace with him. He's got to do it in this game. He's got to do it. And I don't know when he's going to do it. And I don't know when Kalen DeBoer is going to do it, but Kalen DeBoer does it a lot. He will break tendency at the right time. He had that reverse. Remember that reverse? That
4th and 1 on his own 29.
Dude, he's just, and you got to have scones the size of smart cars at times to do it. Because you were like, dude, ain't nobody going to expect this right now. But if I fail, people are going to be like, that guy sucks. That guy's an idiot. You got to be able to balance it. And I can't wait to see which one of them does it. This is a matchup, I think, of two of the best coaches in college football. I really do. And Sark both of these coaches convinced me. I don't know if I was convinced on either one of them, actually, when they were hired. And Sark convinced me, and so is Kalen DeBoer, man. It's going to be a hell of a chess match. I always talk about the chess match within the game. This is potentially a match that he was going to be a chess master, all right, between these two guys.
You mentioned that game, and you go back to running 22 personnel. That's 2 running backs and 2 tight ends, and going empty in that. So nobody in the backfield with that.
No.
What's hilarious to me is it actually reminds me more of something you said last year, Rod. What do you do when when everything's on the line? You just put some Bijan on it. You give it to Bijan Robinson. What do you do when all the chips are on the line? You just give it to Tom Brady.
Exactly.
It's nice when you can mention the Tom Brady's of the world, and you have those guys to kind of make up for you a little bit. Sometimes it goes beyond coaching, right? Yeah, and that's true. That's where a little bit of this comes into play, because Sark was just as good a play caller 2 years ago as he is today. Right? Well, he may be improved.
He has, exactly. I think he's gotten better. I think we're not giving enough credit to how much he's improved. Think about guys. What was one of our biggest complaints against Sark? Just take this for example: the deep shots. Like, stop it, Sark. Why are you addicted to these deep shots? Quit it. They're bad at it. They're not good at it. All right. I know you won't Quinn this big. Just because you can make every throw, don't mean you need to be trying to make all those throws all the time. And Sark would put the team behind the chains, chasing the deep ball. All right, chasing it. And essentially, what did TLC say? Don't go chasing waterfalls. Stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. He would go chasing waterfalls, that deep ball, and go right off the damn cliff. And we saw it in the Oklahoma State game. And now, Sark, how many times do you see a frivolous deep shot? Just a random deep, just keep throwing them. How much? He doesn't chase it. If he throws one, doesn't work, all right, it's cool. We tried it. It doesn't work. Let's go back to what we do really well. He doesn't chase him anymore. That's evolution. As a play caller and head coach, I think he will go back to it when he gets, maybe with Arch and he gets the group he likes. But I think he realized we're not good at this. Why the hell do I know what? I'm hurting my team. He's great in the man in the mirror moments. I got several of those situations where I can point out again that Sark has improved as a play caller. And I think that is really what it is. I love the fact that he's now better as a play caller. I think he's evolved.
I stand corrected.
No.
I'll live with, and I will say this. He had to overcome the 3 high safety look too.
Very true.
He had issues with that and has made adjustments there. So I feel like he's done some really good things, Rod. I'm not saying that, but I think he adapted to the Big 12 as much, but the Pac-12 and the SEC, they don't play these defenses. They really don't play as many hybrids. Now, maybe Oregon or Oregon State might, somebody like that. But he's adapted within the ecosystem. I don't necessarily think he's going to have to adapt to Washington and or Michigan /Alabama.
Great point. Good point.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going here. We got some time here. It's about 10 more minutes left in the hour before we get going. I want to say thank you to our sponsor. Each and every Tuesday night, it's brought to you by Energy Texas. The folks at Energy Texas is Texas electricity done right by Texans for Texans in the state of Texas. www.energytexas.com. 855-461-1129. They are a privatized energy company. So if you get a choice in your energy provider, give them a call, 855-461-1129. They have a flex plan going on right now that allows you to change your energy plan each and every month for free. No additional charge to change your energy plan with EnergyTexas.com. Thank you for your sponsorship of Tuesday night's live stream all year long in 2023. Hey, this one's from Roger G. Bobby, what do you think for next year for the college football playoff? Will conferences like the Pac-12 and Big 12 still get auto bids?
Pac-12.
I have to think that they're going to at least get one. You don't think they're going to at least get
Pac-12?
one out of 12?
Pac-12
somebody in the Big 12 is going to be 11-1.
Yeah, somebody in the Big 12 will get an automatic bid, 100%. The Pac-12 will, it's unless, Washington State and Oregon State play each other 12 times and they just give it to one of them. I don't know. No. But
the
Big 12,
Pac-12
absolutely.
Yeah, Pac-12 out. The ACC's in.
Yep.
ACC will get one or two. Big 12 will get one. I'm just spitballing here, right?
Yeah.
SEC 3, maybe 4.
Yeah.
Big 10 3, maybe 4. Then an at-large team. That sound about right? 2 ACC, 1 Big 12.
Yeah, I think you're right. That makes sense.
Yep. It'll be. Look, I think that we'll finally get some real teams that might cause some problems with some small stuff. I'm getting a. Hold on a second. All champs get auto bids, according to Matt. Our producer.
Yeah.
So that we know that the issue that I'm saying, Pac-12 is not going to have a champ. So unless is Florida State going to bolt to the Pac-12? Is that the next?
No,
move?
I bet they'll come to the Big 12. I bet they'll go to the Big 12. Honestly, Brett Yarmark is pretty savvy. If they're going to bolt, I don't know if they're going. If they don't go to the SEC, and the SEC become even. What the SEC will do? They become even bigger. Now, if you're talking about the SEC acquiring ACC schools, then they might as well just decide, you know what, just make them the perennial conference and everybody decide, all the blue bloods just come to the SEC and we just make it that way. Because that would, I think the Big 12 might be the front runner for Florida State and for these. Listen, Brett Yormark also wants to make the Big 12 the go-to or the premier basketball conference in college. And he wants to monopolize that market. You got a lot of great basketball schools in the ACC. Just throwing it out there. I bet Brett Yarmark will make a move, dog.
I bet he may, but I'm told that the folks at Florida State want either the SEC, but are probably going to get blocked on that from Florida. But if absent of that, they want the Big Ten.
Oh.
So, hey, who can blame them?
The money.
Who can blame them? It's like extra $30 million a year.
Yeah, that's true.
Texas is going to, we could talk about this, but Texas is going to make $30 to $40 million more per year than Baylor with this new TV contract. And I think it's 2026 or 2027, whenever that is.
That's wild.
That's prediction. And so, you talk about haves and have-nots. Rod, I love your plan of, the SEC becoming the Uber conference. That's fine. I really think it should almost be like the NFC versus the AFC. The Big Ten could be the NFC.
Yeah.
The AFC.
That's how it should be.
Yeah, and then you pick off the northern teams in the ACC go north. The southern teams in the ACC go south. You split up the teams in the West, and figure it out from there. But
and then
I'm not paid to make those decisions.
I like that.
You give them division names like the Pac-10, to play for your conference after that, and then we're back to where we started. But no, I think that lines up well. But Florida State to the Big Ten kind of makes me quiver because Big Ten football just isn't for me, and I think Florida State plays a fun brand of football.
But once Bobby's right. Once you lose your blue bloods, so we're talking about basically the Big 12 won't have any blue bloods in football. We're talking about football here. Won't have any blue bloods in football once this is all said. That's why they're going
the closest one is Utah.
Exactly. Which ain't,
Utah.
we know that ain't it, right? There's not a blue blood. And if the ACC loses Florida State, and I think Clemson's in this mix trying to maybe wiggle their way out too, and then maybe North Carolina because they know they got brand recognition. I mean, who gonna be the blue bloods left in the ACC football-wise?
It's not Boston College.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't be losing blue bloods and still be on the same. That's why you're saying the Big 12 is only getting one team in the college football playoff going forward. And you're right. And I think the ACC may be there too if they lose these blue bloods. They originally, think about it, guys. The reason for Power 5 status was blue bloods. They were all the conferences that had actual blue bloods, old school, old money in college football. All right, now you're talking about the Pac-12 losing all their blue bloods. The Big 12 has lost all their blue bloods. And now the ACC is going to lose theirs. And so Bobby's right. We're talking about big time, the most revenue generating product you can get will be Big 10 and SEC. Everybody else is going to just kind of fade to the side and be their own version of college football. Because you're right. That will be the little big boys play because that's what all the blue bloods are going to be.
Well, here's another piece too. If revenue sharing with players becomes a real thing, so say they give players 10% of the revenue, and Texas in 5 years is making $80 million from its TV contract. Okay, that's $8 million to spread among its team. Baylor's going to be making around 35. That's 3.5 million.
Damn.
I mean, that's just sheer economics.
Yep.
We don't know where this is going, and this is all fun to talk about. It's kind of scary to talk about at the same time because it's taking away what you've known college football to be. But I mean, we're playing in it right now, trying to figure it all out. Got a couple more things here coming on from the chat that we want to get to here. Let's first start with 817, Mr. Talk Too Much. The 24 secondary, in my opinion, so Texas's secondary next year, will have the ball skills we all wish this team would go into the UW game with. The guys have to attack the football this game. Rod, there's one guy right now you think has this in the Texas secondary more than any other, and that's Manny Muhammad, and he's the true freshman, right?
Yeah.
Derek Williams may be second.
I agree with that.
We don't have a lot of guys that actually go after the football. Maybe Jahdae Barron a little.
Jahdae Barron is he's just got great instincts. I expect him he will be close to the football. If you don't consider him a ball hawk, I can understand that because he doesn't get his hands on the football a lot. But he's going to be close to the football all the time. Love that about Jahdae Barron's game. So you're right. And, I think, Terrence Brooks last season, guys, remember, he could have won this game for Texas. I'm not throwing him on. The young man's been great. By the way, I'm a huge Terrence Brooks fan. He's been great. But he almost won this game. He had there was a out route that he broke on in a magnificent fashion, and he just dropped it. My point being, Michael Penix will throw you some. CJ's seen it too. He's got 9 interceptions on the season, but guys, I can think of like 3 or 4 right off the top of my head that guys just straight off just dropped. Now, I'm sure every quarterback has. Quinn Ewers got a couple of those, right? That was every quarterback. But he takes chances, unnecessary ones at times. He trusts his wide receivers. He's got 3 NFL wide receivers. Why wouldn't you? If they're one-on-one, he's going to throw it, even if the coverage is tight and the window is small. And he trusts his arm. He's got a cannon of an arm, so why not? But having that much trust sometimes can be dangerous for a quarterback. He does not have a filter, really. If he sees it, he throws it. And I think if you confuse him, sorry about that. That's what Texas did last season. They confused him a lot. He will just throw it still. He threw an interception against Texas because they were moving around the front and they had a different pre-snap read than the post-snap look. And he just threw it because he thought, hey, man, my guy's going to be there because he trusted his wide receivers. Wide receivers saw something different based on the pre-snap and the post-snap, and the guy wasn't there. It was an easy interception for Jaron Thompson.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big part of the game plan, CJ.
No, Rod, I wanted to just kind of double up on that. That Oregon game, the first drive should have been an interception in the Pac-12 championship. Like you said, there's movement in the secondary pre-snap. Penix gets confused. He looks out to his right. What he thought was going to be a stop route at 5 yards turned into a slant. Ball goes outside. Cornerback dove, got hands on the football after driving in on the slant route. Ball stays outside. If that's a step late, half step earlier for the cornerback to recognize where the ball was in the air, it's a pick six. That game probably goes a little bit differently since it's on the first drive. But it's the same kind of way that you were mentioning there. Pre-snap movement in the secondary and especially around the linebackers can really start messing with him a little bit because he's so keen in that offense that he's been in now for 5 years under Kalen DeBoer. He knows where everything should be in terms of,
Great
checks,
point.
hots, everything along the lines of that, even though that's not necessarily what will happen with his receivers, that he thinks that's where it will be, and the movement kind of messes with him. So he's susceptible, and I liked pointed out prior to the Alabama game, a lot of what he does is snap, step, go, and so Texas was quick to jump on some of those underneath routes. Washington doesn't throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage all too often. It's all out in front, short to intermediate. Catch, go. Texas, is going to jump a few of those. The secret is to not get beat deep on double moves.
That's a great point.
All right, couple more. Got time for a couple more questions and comments. Want to go to this one from Rocky Poor. Thank you, Rocky, for the super chat. Merry Christmas and thanks for all your hard work. Hook 'em, Rocky. I keep hearing how freaky this edge rusher is that just become eligible. How does Texas prepare? He's talking about Zach Durfee. Excuse me. I want to call him. I want to start calling him Curfy for some reason every time. But anyways, he is a transfer from South Dakota that just became eligible. Had multiple double-digit sack seasons at South Dakota as a couple of years ago. I don't know how they prepare for him other than just see what he can do his first game in there. I mean, look, he may be the next Howie Long. I don't know, right? But Howie Long, it took him some time to get used to the playing style and the timing of playing major college football over and over and over. Now he may be a true freak. We don't know. We truly don't know, Rod and CJ.
Yeah, nobody does.
But Texas is aware of him. I mean, I know that for a fact. They're aware of him. What can he do? We got to see it. Other than prepare. I mean, just make sure your pass protection is in good shape. I mean, there's not much else you can do. Hey, by the way, I want to go back to Mr. Talk Too Much. Do we think the 24 secondary will be better at Texas? Is the loss of Jaron Thompson, Jalen Catalon, and Keaton Crawford, maybe Ryan Watts, Jahdae Barron? Do you think Texas has the young guys good enough to step in there? CJ, the young guys as well are better than anybody. What do you make of that assessment?
I think that not only the talent that is coming in the 24 secondary will be, suitable to play right away in the SEC. It's solely the athleticism that has me thinking yes. It's being able to cut off angles on outside runs, running the alley, as we've seen with Jalen Catalon when he's healthy, is one of those things that not many other safeties in this group are able to do and do often. That that kind of athleticism, being able to stick with guys in coverage, not get beat over the top. Yes, the eye vision is a thing that we'll have to adjust with all young secondary members, but the athleticism will allow them to keep up and, kind of make up for bad vision or make up for, we've seen it with Keaton Crawford as recently as the Oklahoma State game. Athleticism means a lot in the secondary. If your eyes aren't there, but you can run a 4.4 and, really leap out the gym, you can make diving, Willie Mays style interceptions in Big 12 championship games, because that's what happens. So, yeah, I think when you start talking about a Jelani McDonald in the mix, Warren Roberson, obviously Xavier Filsaime coming in as well, these are all guys with extreme athleticism that you currently don't have right now with this secondary room right now. And even Jahdae Barron, as good as he has been, I wouldn't say he's the best athlete right now. I think with Andrew Makuba coming in, you're getting a better athlete. But like you said, I just saw you mentioned to the head. I mean, Jahdae's strength is his mind and his IQ and how he's able to read and dictate where plays are going. If you're able to teach that on film and have that translate to a game, you're going to see more interceptions because these guys are more talented and they're more athletic.
Totally agree.
I want to add this. I'll add this. And Rod, I think you might agree with me. I think they'll be better in the second half of the season, not the first half. The first half of the season, they're going to get to know how each other plays. They'll get some camaraderie. They'll understand what each other's weaknesses are, be able to get a sense of that. I think they'll be better in the second half of the season than the first half. Rob,
yeah, because they'll be young. Yeah, because they'll be young, right? Yeah, because they're going to put them young bucks out there, and you got to get them at. Look at Manny Muhammad now. Look at where he is. So they're going to try to rotate him in early. I think early on they'll try to have the vets stabilize the secondary, but they'll throw those young bucks out there early on. And CJ's right. This group, they're just recruited. It also reminds me of when I was on the 40 acres, when it was me, Ahmad Brooks, Nathan Basher in the secondary. I mean, we were good players. I mean, we had one of the best secondaries in the country. But then they started recruiting guys like Cedric Griffin and Michael Huff, Aaron Ross. Like, I saw these dudes as young bucks, and I went, yep, higher ceiling than us. They definitely got higher ceilings, higher upside. Whether they'll achieve that or not, that's up to them, right? They got to put in the work, become students of the game, all that kind of stuff. But they definitely had higher upsides. I think this group, you can see much higher upsides than the players that are here. Guys that are here are good players. But these guys, if the coaches can continue on this developmental path and developmental rate, what they're doing right now, the players getting better at every position, they'll have these young bucks, up to speed by, like you said, the end of the season. And then they'll be better in coverage. So you have coverage specialists at every position. Makuba, I think he's going to be your nickel, because the nickel, I think, is one of the toughest positions to play. You want experience there. You want high football IQ. You don't necessarily need a ball hawk there. And J.D. Bear's not a ball hawk necessarily. He's around the ball a lot, but I don't necessarily see a ball hawk. He's more of a disruptor, and he's more of I think he's kind of a chess master, honestly. Sage wants to be a defensive coordinator. The guy's all about being a student of the game. Makuba plays every position in secondary, which means you got to have high football IQ to do that. I want that guy at nickel, because at nickel, you're going to have to, at one point, have the responsibility of every player in the damn secondary at one point. Playing man coverage, you're going to be a safety at one point. At one point, I'm going to need you to strong or free. So put him there, let him stabilize it, put the young bucks around him. And I think Xavier Philson will be on the same track as Derek Williams. Those will probably be your two starting safeties by at maybe the end of the season, if Philson is on the same track as Derek Williams, and Derek Williams is already exceeding expectations.
Rod, real quick, Bobby, and I want you to chime in as well. Texas plays Michigan, a team that doesn't throw the ball downfield a whole lot as a marquee week 2 game. You talk about taking time to gel with a young secondary. I mean, how, important is that game to be on a big stage and know that you're going to be playing a talented team, but not necessarily be exposed to the level that you would in Alabama and Ohio State, even in Oklahoma?
That's true.
What if Texas played Michigan 2 out of its next 3 games? Why don't we think about that a little bit before we talk about next year? That would be mine. Hey, one more question before we get going there. Somebody asked in the chat, can David Bender return? The answer is yes. He has not said whether he will or not, though.
He should
at this point. Kyle Witherspoon with the last question of the night. Where are you all leaning right now on the final score of this game? We're going to have a final score kind of preview game a little later in the week. But give Kyle a sense of what y'all are thinking. I just want to say this. I'm thinking the game's going to be in the 30s by both teams. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. Rod, CJ?
I think kind of last possession thing, man. I really do. I think you're coming down to the last possession. Both these teams they're really good. And both of them have kind of the same weakness, which is pass defense. I think Texas is not as vulnerable as Washington is, but here's the thing. I'll throw this out there real quick. So I watched that San Fran Baltimore game, right? I'm sure a lot of y'all watched that too. And a lot of people thought San Fran at home was going to handle Baltimore. And the thing Baltimore had and San Fran had a better roster. San Fran's a better overall team. I think we can all agree, right? Just looking at the roster on paper, better team. Texas is a better team on paper than Washington. They are, period. That's what we do right now. We analyze the stats, the measurements, all that kind of stuff, the matchup, analytics, all that. But Baltimore had a couple of advantages over San Fran in that matchup. They had a better quarterback. It matters. In football, it really does.
Yep.
And you could argue they had a better head coach. I love my man Shano. I'm a big fan, but John Harbaugh's won the Super Bowl. I mean, John Harbaugh's, accomplished more than my man Shano has. So I'll give them the coaching advantage. And by the way, Kalen DeBoer, is a really good coach, but I think he's got a little bit of an advantage over Sark right now, just kind of in the coaching thing, just because Sark is ascending. They both are, but he's like a, what is he, 103 and 8 as a coach, something like that? Guys, right now he would have the check, right, over Sark. So better head coach, better quarterback. And their strength, Baltimore's strength is what? Lamar Jackson moving around as a quarterback, best athlete playing quarterback position in the NFL, right? Overall, just a freak of an athlete playing quarterback. You can't say that's why the NFC is 20-1 versus Lamar Jackson. You see him once a year, you're screwed. Because you can't simulate that at practice. You need to see that a few times a year to get used to it, to acclimate to a guy running 4.3, a quarterback that can throw the football and hit it on a dime. You just don't see that. You can't simulate it and replicate that practice either. So the unique advantage that Baltimore has is they can extend plays with him, and the elite pass rush of San Fran is nullified by that because he can extend plays. Yeah, you got there, but he's still running around. And then, hell, your secondary can only cover for so long. I don't give a damn how good they are. They can't cover for 7 seconds. I mean, he's extending the play for about 5 to 6. So their extinct advantage was matched up against, something that I think San Fran couldn't solve. And Texas has that dilemma too. They got a quarterback advantage, a head coach advantage, and their passing offense is so damn good that sometimes you just can't solve it. If he's hot and those wide receivers are just, getting open and doing your DBs dirty on the outside, that's what Texas is up against. Sometimes a paper advantage don't mean a damn thing.
Yep. When
you got the checks in those few areas, that's what concerns me a little bit. That's football. That's football, baby.
So last score game. You said last possession game. CJ, what about you?
I don't think either team hits 40, but if one does, that will be the winner. The first to 40 will win. I don't think it happens. I actually lean like this will be a slower game, more methodical drive-by game. Obviously, we've talked about the high-flying ability for both teams to score over the top. I think the team that runs the football the best will be more successful. Being able to play a balanced style. We saw, obviously, and we've talked about it this week. I mean, that game last year was not, I would say a characteristic game of either team. Yet we saw the tendencies and kind of tendency breakers from the Texas defense that kept Washington State kind of at bay offensively. They did not push the ball down the field very much. They had to make drives go through, the running game, had to stretch drives going for it on 3rd and long and 4th and short. That just kind of how the game turned into. I don't think it'll necessarily be the same way, but I do think there will be a slowed down kind of let me control the pace a little bit. Let me dictate what happens on a drive-by-drive basis. So I think, a little bit, probably like in the low 30s to mid-20s if I had to guess right now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be in the 30s. I think both teams I think there's going to be some fireworks, but then it'll slow down.
Yeah,
that's my guess. You CJ, you said something in the middle of this chat that I thought was really poignant. 7th in the country scoring in the first quarter. Washington is 1st in the country scoring in the 2nd quarter. They will come out hot and try to play keep away a little bit. That's what they'll try to do. All right, that's going to do it for tonight. Each and every Tuesday night live stream brought to you by the folks at Energy Texas. Thank you for your sponsorship this year. We really appreciate you. Also, tomorrow morning, you were talking about all those guys behind you, Rod Babers. You mentioned Aaron Ross and Michael Griffin and Michael Huff. Don't forget about Cedric Griffin. He's going to be on with us in the morning for Coffee and Football alongside CJ, myself, and Blake Monroe. For Matt Hutchison, our producer, I'm Bobby Burton. Thanks, CJ Vogel and Rob Babers. This has been On Texas Football. Hook 'em.